Hello there, welcome back to Jennie Designs with Paper. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. I'm working with my spreadsheet to create a card, so get comfy and let's get crafty. So today the spreadsheet and random number generator selected WPlus9 as the brand. So I am using this WPlus9 The Little Things stamp set. The product type was a layering stamp, so I'm using this. This is a layering stamp. And in this stamp set, all of the layers that go together are circled with a dotted line on the image sheet. I'm also going to be using these Spellbinders dies. I'm not part of the spreadsheet, but I'm going to use them anyway. The technique was an interactive card, so I'm going to be using action wobblers. The color palette comes from this piece of pattern paper, and I've selected some inks from Altenew to coordinate with that. It is a baby themed card, so I'm using this old Stampin' Up set for the sentiment, and some enamel dots are the extra. So we're going to go ahead and stamp the layers of this stamp set. I'm using one birdhouse, 2 pots, and 1 window box. I'm going to apologize right now. The pollinating has begun here in Virginia, and my allergies are it's a hot mess. I last fall took myself off of all of my allergy meds, and so I've had to start taking them again this spring, and oh my goodness, the last few days have been ridiculous. So to make sure that I am layering the layers correctly, I'm pulling out this layering guide from Simon Says Stamp. It's just a thicker plastic that has a grid on it. I don't need the grid necessarily, but I can eke up the stamp and stamp it onto that guide and make sure that my second stamp is in the right place, and then just wipe it off real quick. So I am doing that because there's no bold outlines on this stamp so that I know that I'm layering things properly. It's meant to look like a watercolor. And if you know Dawn from WPlus9, watercoloring is like her jam. Unfortunately, WPlus9 is not making stamp sets anymore, but Dawn is working with honeybee stamps quite a bit, and there's still a lot of videos on YouTube. So I encourage you to check her out. I will try to remember to link her channel down below. She is one of my favorites to watch. For this birdhouse, I'm using 3 colors of green, and I will be honest, it's not my favorite. It's not my favorite, but I'm sticking with the color palette. And I'm going to make it work. The theme of this card is a baby card, and these images are not normally what you would expect from a baby card. But I thought in the spring with the birdhouse, that's kind of new babyish, right? I am that slacker neighbor who still has a Christmas wreath, dead and dying, on my front door. And a bird built a nest in it, and now there's 5 little robin eggs in the nest on my front door. So I can't throw the wreath away now. Gratefully, we use the garage more than we use the front door. So we don't disturb the bird too much. Although my daughter's cat likes to sit at the door and just meow when she hears the birds tweeting. That's not English. Here's the birds tweeting. I don't know. Anyways, so it's going to be interesting when those eggs hatch, how the cat and the dog react to things. So I have the birdhouse stamp. I'm going to stamp this window box kind of flower pot, and I'm adding some of one set of the flowers in here looks like tulips maybe, and the other sets look like, I don't know, hyacinths maybe. They're not really defined, but they work. I'm also going to use this pale flower pot, and you're going to see a lot of my head now trying to make sure I line these pale pieces up properly. I'm using the pail twice, actually. At first, I was only going to do 2, and then I remembered that in order to make this an interactive card, that birdhouse has to do something. And so I did go ahead and stamp a third or a second barrel, the same as I'm stamping the first. And there's in this pattern paper a little tiny piece of turquoise. So I'm adding the turquoise to these images with the string or the twine or the ribbon or whatever it is around these flower pots. I also pulled in a neutral. So the cardstock didn't have a gray or a brown or anything as the neutral. It had a cream, but I pulled in some Altenew grays to make the flower boxes, just to be kind of neutral. I was AOL, not AOL. Yeah, AWOL. There we go, AOL. I'm getting my internet and my army terms confused because I am functioning on less than 2 brain cells right now. So my daughter and I and my mama went to New York last week for an extended spring break for me, but for my daughter's spring break. And we had a good time. I think we almost broke my mama. We walked, I think my daughter added up over 30,000 steps in the course of, well, over 3 days, but really 2 days, because one day we were on a train. Our trip started kind of chaotic because my daughter's flight was like 4 hours late and she didn't actually land until the morning. We were supposed to take the Amtrak from Virginia up to New York. So that was fun. But we had a really good time. I enjoyed spending time with my daughter. I enjoyed spending time with my mama. I don't get to see either of them very often. They both live in the West. My mom is in Idaho and my daughter's in Utah. And so it was fun to have a week or a few days with just the three of us. For the flowers on this window pot, of course, I'm going to make them yellow tulips because there wasn't purple in the pattern paper. So I'm stamping the majority of the stamp that has the most stamp surface is the lightest color. And then the stamp that has the least stamp surface is the darkest color. So like on the birdhouse, I did the side is the lightest, the front is the darkest, and then the detail is, or the front is the midtone, and then the detail is the darkest. So in this first pot, I'm going to go ahead and stamp some of these hyacinth looking, I don't know flowers. I don't know what they're supposed to look like. To me, they look like hyacinths, but it also could be snapdragons or, okay, I don't know flowers. I just know they're pretty. I'm going to stamp the leaves in here first with the light green and then with the dark green, the same greens that I used on the birdhouse. And again, sorry, you get to see my hair and all my wispies. I don't have my hair up. I just have it pulled back out of my face. I haven't done my hair yet today. I'm dealing with allergies. I'm dealing with the getting back to normal schedule. It's been interesting, but it's been busy, but it's been fun. So I did go ahead and use the pink. And then for the second layer, I added the yellow over the top of it to kind of create a coral color in there as well. And now I'm going to go ahead and stamp that second bucket. For the dark rim on the top, I used a stamp block instead of my Misty because the stamp was so delicate. It was really hard to get it to stand up on the paper properly so that I could get it stamped on the bucket properly. And for this second bucket, I used the stamp block for the ribbon as well, or the string, the bow, whatever. I don't know if that was any more successful than the Misty stamp positioner, to be honest, but that's okay. So for this pail, I'm going to do 2 sets of leaves. I'm going to use the light green and the mid-tone green, and then the mid-tone green and the dark green. And once I had the flowers put on, I felt like there was a little bit of space still. So I went ahead and added a second stalk of the light green leaves. I did not add only one layer of the leaves, and I did not add any flowers to that. I just felt like that I got kind of a little bit too much space in between the flowers in there, and it just needed to fill it up a little bit. In the end, you can't even see it. You can't see it enough to know that there was a little bit of a gap there. So, it is what it is. On this one, I'm just using the pink. The flowers are just going to be the pink. I don't think I used, in fact, this flower does have 2 stamps to make the layers. I only used one of them. I only used one flower, and I stamped it pink on one side, and then I stamped it pink on the other. I just didn't bother to use a second layer or to change the color. This was kind of just, this third barrel or this third pot of flowers was to keep that odd number, that rule of thirds kind of thing going on when I do the layout on my card. I did kind of want to keep this card, it is an interactive card, so I wouldn't call it a clean and simple card, but I did want it to keep it a little bit cleaner in the background. So, and there I about dropped an ink cube on top of my stamped images. I would have been so mad, y'all. That would have just not made me happy. Here is where I'm stamping that third little leaf stem. And because I'm using the light green, that pink flower kind of comes above it. So I have taken the black foam pad out of my Misty and put a scrap piece of black cardstock in. I am inking up this stamp with white pigment ink. It's upside down. It doesn't matter because I'm going to be fussy cutting it out. This is an older stamp set from Stampin' Up. I just keep it in my collection because it has good sentiments for babies, including an adoption sentiment, which is really rare. It shouldn't be, but it is really rare in stamp sets. But I covered that ink with white embossing powder. This is Brutus Monroe's Alabaster White, and then I heat set it with my heat tool. And off camera, I did all of the fussy cutting. So the birdhouse I cut out clean, and then the flower pails, I left a little bit of a border because there was no way, right? So I have a piece of heavyweight cardstock that is 11 by 4¼ inches. I scored it in half at 5½. And then I took this quarter sheet down and trimmed it down to 4 by 5¼ which was absolutely unnecessary. Absolutely unnecessary, because I'm going to use these Spellbinders dies. I can't remember the name of these. Let me see if I can find them on my desk. Sorry, ignore the loud noise. They are the, oh my gosh, my desk is so messy. I don't know where they are. It'll be in the blog. It'll be in the blog. The cool thing with these dies is you have the option of making it a layer or a frame. And I opted not to use the inside, to cut the inside out and just leave it as a layer. So here I'm trying to figure out how to position all these. And this is when I remember for like the 30,000th time that birdhouse has to do something because it's an interactive card. So I need to make the collage part of this without the birdhouse. I need to take it off my mind. And this is how I'm going to put it together. And I like how that turned out. And then I can put the birdhouse over here on the side. But now the birdhouse is floating. So how do we fix a floating birdhouse? Well, we give it a post, right? Figure out where I'm going to put the sentiment. For the post, I found a piece of scrap cardstock. One piece was 1/2 inch, one piece was 1/4 inch. I decided that the 1/4 inch piece was more appropriate. And I grabbed my warm gray Copic markers and just added some really scribbly, doesn't matter what they look like, wood grain-ish fake lines. And then I took the lightest gray and ink blended with a brush over the top of the Copic markers just to add a little bit of gray to that craft cardstock. So now I'm going to put my flower pots back, and I have a little tiny piece of Glad press and seal. I just trimmed off a little piece so I could pick up those flowers. I'm going to carefully pick that up off of my work surface, and you put a little bit of liquid glue on the back. This is the My Favorite Things glue tube. It was the first glue that I grabbed out of my tool caddy on my desk. That's it. I'm going to pick that up with the press and seal and put it right back where I had it. I did need to put a little bit of glue behind those tulips once I had it pulled up, but nothing major. So then I figured out where I wanted the birdhouse, and I stuck that little post up underneath it with a little bit of glue on the back of that as well. And then I'm going to flip it over and just trim it off with scissors. I mean, the post is just to ground the birdhouse. It doesn't have to have any artistic value to it at all. So for the action wobbles, these are the Simon Says Stamp small action wobblers, and there's adhesive on both sides. One is a solid side spring and one is kind of an open circle. So I've peeled the backing off of the flat side and attached it to the birdhouse, and then off of the ring side. And here we're going to see this action wobble in action. I love action wobbles. I think they are so stinking cute. They're like my favorite. Now we're going to go ahead and use my ATG to put some double-sided adhesive on the back of this die cut label. And I'm going to use my tweezers and my grid mat and kind of eyeball center it in the middle of the card. Now this white on white is not super visible. The die cut does have some embossed detail around the edge, so that makes it pop up just a little bit. I decided that the sentiment needed to pop up as well, so I added some foam squares from the Dollar Tree to the back of that, and with my tweezers, wow, words are hard, I just added that sentiment to the front of the card. The extra in today's card were enamel dots. These are some old Stampin' Up! Enamel dots, and I'm adding multiple colors because if it's a baby card, it needs to be colorful, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be, but it's a baby card, so it can be colorful. So I added a yellow and a turquoise and a pink and a green and an orange. And now we're going to play with the action wobbler again because I can. So here we're going to close up just a little bit. Hopefully you can see a little of the embossed detail on that label. And that's the finished card. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up. I've added some other videos here for you to watch. I also have that subscribe button. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you did. Leave me a comment down below. I love to hear what you have to say, and have a really great day.